Right, just a very quick video to show you an update on my gun dog training dummy launcher. Well, I've completely remade it, as you can see. I've made this one out of 304 stainless steel, 316 stainless steel, aluminium and brass. I've included this simple handle stock at the back here, so it can be used as a handle or pulled into the shoulder like a rifle. This handle here is new. I've made a much better bolt action, longer travel, so it's dead easy to cock now. It's got a better spring mechanism in there as well. And I've also included this simple trigger mechanism. So I still have the screw-on barrel, which takes these dummy launcher cartridges you can get from many places. You can get them online or from farm shops or whatever. They do the red box, which is the high powered ones, green box medium, and yellow, which is the lowest power. And like I say, this screw on barrel here, I've made it to a standard size here on the diameter, which will suit ordinary black or white plastic conduit piping, which you can get from most building supplies or hardware shops. So it's very easy to get hold of, very cheap to buy, and easy to make up all different types of dummies for the actual launcher. And again, to keep it perfectly legal, I've made it so that it cannot fire any other projectile. The cartridge goes in this end, which is round, and the exit hole is a slot. So there's no way that it can actually fire any other projectile. So to suit the actual conduit piping, I've made the diameter to 0.675 thou. And it's still the same length as my old one, and like I say, that's a really nice fit on there, but I've still included this O-ring, which gives about 10 thou squeeze. And I've used the conduit piping to make this simple rocket here, just a hollow pipe. Well, you have to stuff the actual hollow with something light. I've used plastic carrier bags, pushed it up inside until it actually meets the end of the actual barrel. And I tested this one out last weekend. It fired a terrific distance, obviously the longest firing dummy. Fired it up at an angle. It nearly went out of sight, and like I say, went at a terrific distance. I'm not sure exactly how far. I'll have to measure it next time. When it came down, it went into the ground and stuck in about halfway. So that's a really nice little project to make. So this is a close-up of the new mechanism that I've made. You can see that the bolt action is much longer than the last one I made. So it's much easier to cock, like I say, and much smoother. I've got a better spring mechanism in there as well. I've made this cone of steel up here. That one's brazed onto a piece of silver steel rod. The rod goes through a drilled piece of threaded studding. That's 8mm threaded studding, and that studding is locked on either side of the handle with a stainless steel nut. So those nuts can be unscrewed, and the whole assembly can be adjusted to get the perfect firing position. And it's a very simple design, like I say, but works perfectly every time. The trigger is simply a block of brass. This one is an Allen bolt screwed into that, and that locks that on the end of the silver steel with just a simple spring in between, and that can obviously be adjusted again to get the correct length and the correct tension on the spring. The hammerhead on the end of the bolt is made of tool steel, and I've included a pin here, screwed pin, to stop the actual firing pin assembly from falling too far back and out of position. So it can only go back a few millimeter. And that's basically it. Simple but very effective. So if you're making one of these, the most important thing is to stay within the law of your country. And like I say, this barrel here cannot fire any other projectile. I forgot to mention that this slot here is much narrower than the actual bore, so no projectile can go through it. It's almost like a figure of 8, so it's narrower even in the middle section there, and that will make it perfectly legal, because it can only fire these training dummies. Also, if you're making and using these, make sure you use them on private property and away from anyone that is frightened of gunshot sounds. And that's another thing, if you use something standard like the conduit piping, you can quickly and easily make up a suppressor. I've made this one up just to test this out and get the actual firing mechanism right. I've made it out of some carbon fibre and made sections inside, and also got this expansion chamber. This is just another piece of water pipe, and the conduit piping goes up inside of that one, and then I can use it on the launcher to test it out without disturbing the neighbours. And this is the suppressor in action. I've loaded it up and fire. And one in low light just to show you again. And I can do all that without disturbing anyone. So if you live in a quiet residential area, before making one of these and firing it, make the suppressor up, and you won't cause anyone any alarm. So like I say, if I get time, I'll show you this one in operation. You can actually set them up as well to fire remotely with a cord, or even with remote control. So I hope you like my new gun dog dummy launcher, and like I say, I hope to show it in action very soon.